For years, Donald Trump has sold himself as the political equivalent of a tiger. Fierce, untouchable, untappable. Republicans treated him like an act of God. The courts greased the rails for his power grabs, and the press too often treated his impulses as destiny. But this government shutdown is peeling back the stripes, and what's underneath is a paper tiger. And the person holding up the first match? Marjorie Taylor Greene, yes, Jewish space laser Marjorie Taylor Greene, is suddenly sounding like the voice of reason complaining about skyrocketing op-ed premiums. When Mount Gay starts echoing Democratic demands, something has shifted. This isn't just a budget standoff, it's the first real test of Trump's inevitability since he returned to power. And the results, cracks are forming. When fast, we're unpacking why the Democrats might actually be winning by simply saying no. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not exactly known for sober policy analysis. This is, after all, the same congresswoman who once suggested that wildfires in California might have been caused by Jewish space layers. She's a MAGA firebrand, not a wonk. She's built her political brand on amplifying conspiracies, picking fights on social media, and acting as one of Donald Trump's most loyal shock troops in Congress, which is precisely why her recent outburst about op-ed premium hit Washington like a thunderclap. On Monday, Greene tweeted that her adult children's health insurance premiums are doubling, increasing by a full 100%, and that we have to do something about the absolutely insane cost of insurance for Americans. She then blasted Republican leadership for not offering a plan. Not a single Republican in leadership talked to the House Go Back conference about this or has given us a plan to help Americans deal with their health insurance premiums doubling. For a woman who usually spends her time railing against Democrats, this sounded suspiciously like a Democratic talking point. In fact, it was the Democratic talking point in the government shutdown standoff that Republicans must agree to extend OPPO subsidies to protect families from huge premium spikes, and that's what made the political world stop and blink. If Marjorie Taylor Greene is echoing the Democrats' demands, something fundamental has shifted inside the Republican ranks. This wasn't some moderate from a swing district breaking ranks. This was one of Trump's most vocal allies and the embodiment of the MAGA base, sounding the alarm about a core kitchen table issue that her own party was ignoring. Now let's be clear. Greene hasn't had a sudden ideological awakening. She hasn't joined the progressive movement overnight. What she's doing is sending a message, not to Democrats, but to Donald Trump and Republican leadership. It's the message of the proverbial canary in the coal mine. Something dangerous is happening politically, and she can sense it before the roof caves in. Her constituents are angry, premiums are going up, and the Democrats have positioned themselves as the only ones fighting to stop it. If Greene's base starts associating their pain with Republican inaction, that's a political time bomb, and she knows it. It's also revealing something else. The Republican Party, for all its bravado about being the party of working-class Americans, doesn't actually have a policy answer for skyrocketing health costs. They've spent a decade trying to dismantle OPPO, but when the subsidies that keep premiums low are set to expire, they have nothing to offer their own voters except silence. Greene's outburst exposes that vacuum. It's a rare moment where the political theater collided with reality, and reality won. Her tweet wasn't a fluke, it was an instinct for political survival. She's not leading a rebellion against Trump, she's warning him that one is coming if he doesn't act. The irony, of course, is thick. The same congresswoman who once accused Democrats of plotting against America from the shadows is now standing on their policy platform because it's popular, because it matters to her voters, because it threatens Trump. And that right there is the real story. When even Marjorie Taylor Greene starts speaking the language of Democratic demands, it's not because she's changed sides, it's because she smells blood in the water. Government shutdowns are, at their core, political chess matches. They're less about policy details and more about who controls the narrative, who looks like they're standing up for ordinary Americans, and who gets blamed for the pain that inevitably follows. Historically, both parties have taken their turns as the villain or the hero in these fights. But this time the dynamics are different. On one side of the board, Democrats with a single clear kitchen table demand, like extend oppo subsidies so families don't face catastrophic spikes in their health insurance premiums. It's a concrete issue that millions of Americans can understand and feel, no complicated legislative abstractions, no vague principles. Just don't let people's insurance double overnight on the other side. Donald Trump standing atop his MAGA pulpit with no clear demands at all. He isn't asking for a specific policy concession. He isn't bargaining over numbers. He's holding the government hostage to prove dominance. The problem with that strategy, you can't spin chaos forever. Eventually, voters want to know what this is all about. Democrats have learned from past shutdown battles. They're disciplined. They've repeated the same message again and again. We're fighting for affordable health care. Republicans are blocking it. It's simple, emotionally resonant, and most importantly, it matches reality. Polling backs them up. A majority of Americans blame Trump and the obey for the shutdown and support the Democrats' position on subsidies. Trump, meanwhile, is repeating his greatest hits, blaming the enemy within, attacking Democrats as traitors, and portraying himself as the only man who can save America. But, unlike during his first term, that act isn't working quite as well. People have lived through his chaos once already. The mystique has worn thin. This isn't 2018, when Trump could paint Democrats as obstructionists while demanding his wall. Back then, at least, he had a tangible, if controversial, goal. This time, he's demanding, obedience. And voters, especially Republican voters who are about to face doubled health insurance bills, are starting to ask why the chessboard metaphor fits perfectly here. Democrats are playing positionally, slowly tightening their control over the board. Trump is playing checkers, leaping from insult to spectacle, hoping brute force will deliver checkmate. It won't. The other difference this time is discipline within the Democratic ranks. In past shutdown fights, internal divisions sometimes muddy their message, but right now they're united. They've tethered their entire strategy to one clear demand, and they're letting Trump's lack of clarity do the work for them. Every day the shutdown drags on, his incoherence becomes the story. And perhaps the most dangerous piece on the board for Trump isn't even a Democrat. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene. When his most loyal foot soldiers start sounding alarm bells about policy failures, that's not a crack in the facade. That's a fissure. In chess, sometimes the game isn't lost through a single blunder, but through a series of small accumulating missteps, a pawn left undefended here, a knight trapped there, until suddenly the king has nowhere to go. That's what's happening now. Trump didn't walk into this shutdown with a strategy. He walked in with a brand. And brands don't win chess matches. In Washington, there's a classic playbook. During a shutdown, both parties scramble to do something. There are backroom talks, bipartisan gangs, midnight negotiations. Usually, compromise is the name of the game. And even if no one quite remembers what they compromised for 6 months later. But this time, something unusual is happening. Democrats have chosen a different path. They've decided not to bargain for bargaining's sake. Their principle is clear. Extend oppo subsidies, keep health insurance affordable for millions of families, and reopen the government. That's it. No side deals, no sprawling wish lists, just one simple popular demand. And remarkably, that clarity is working. Republicans expecture. Historically, Democrats have been the party of governing the adults in the room. They've often been the ones to cave first, fearful of being blamed for dysfunction. But the political terrain has shifted. Democrats now understand something fundamental. When your principle aligns with public opinion, sometimes this strucks it. A growing majority of Americans see the shutdown as Trump's fault. They understand the stakes. If subsidies expire, their insurance premiums skyrocket. That's a real personal hit. Not some abstract political fight over a border wall or procedural rule. So when Democrats say, no subsidies, no deal, they're not being obstructionist. Meanwhile, Trump has trapped himself. He entered this standoff without a clear goal beyond showing dominance. He assumed Democrats would blink, but they haven't. And the longer they hold firm, the weaker he looks. Every day that passes, his lack of a coherent demand becomes more glaring. It's not Democrats who look inflexible, it's Trump who looks lost. There's also a psychological dimension. Trump's political power has always relied on chaos, on throwing the system off balance, then forcing others to react. But this time, Democrats aren't reacting. They're refusing to dance to his tune. They're saying no and then repeating their single disciplined message. That drives him nuts. And politically, it works. Inside the Republican caucus, cracks are forming. Some members are starting to panic about voter backlash. They're facing calls from constituents worried about their health insurance without a clear justification for the shutdown. Even Trump-loyal lawmakers are struggling to defend it. A few have even floated temporary funding measures to buy time. Precisely the kind of retreat Trump hates. Democrats, for once, are united in both message and tactics. By sticking to principle, they've flipped the script. Instead of being the party scrambling to avert a shutdown, they've become the party calmly demanding a popular policy while Trump flails. This is what it looks like when principle meets political reality and wins. It's not flashy. There's no dramatic late-night breakthrough. There's simply one side holding a popular line and the other side crumbling under the weight of its own incoherence. Trump may try to change the subject, to attack, to distract. But as long as Democrats keep saying no to chaos and yes to a concrete demand, the political math doesn't change. For once, refusing to play his game is the winning move. Donald Trump's political universe has always been governed by one central rule: loyalty above all else. MAGA isn't just a slogan, it's a loyalty test. Support the leader unquestioningly, follow his narrative, and the chaotic world around you is manageable. Fail, and the consequences are swift. Yet even in this carefully constructed ecosystem, cracks are appearing. The government shutdown has created a scenario that Trump's usual arsenal of fear, spectacle, and outrage cannot fully control. Republican voters are starting to ask questions, and sometimes quietly, sometimes through the voices of their own representatives. And that's where the fissures begin. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the first, but not the only canary. Her public concern about skyrocketing health insurance premiums is more than a complaint. It's a signal to Trump and GOP leadership that the base is feeling real pain. The MAGA loyalty test is no longer absolute. When your staunchest allies start echoing Democratic concerns, it exposes the Republican caucus. Unease is growing. Some members recognize that the longer the shutdown continues, the more it threatens to associate global governance with hardship, not just for Democratic-leaning states, but for their own constituents. After all, a double premium bill affects millions of Americans, including Republicans and voters' notice. The brilliance of Trump's previous political strategy was that he could frame chaos as strength. But this time, Democrats are holding a clear popular line, and the narrative is flipping. Republicans are being forced into a defensive posture, not defending policy, but defending a president who is now vulnerable to the very base that elevated him. Cracks in the MAGA edifice are also visible in rhetoric. Loyalists who once parroted Trump's attacks on the enemy within are now discussing health insurance costs as an urgent concern. That's a subtle yet profound shift. It means the loyalty test, the ritual of unconditional support, is encountering friction with reality. Constituents are demanding more than performative fealty. They want results. The stakes are high because perception matters more than policy in this environment. For Trump, the shutdown isn't about legislation. It's about proving he's indispensable. But as AGOB lawmakers and voters experience the tangible costs of inaction, that proof begins to erode. The base can see that the chaos harms them, and that Democrats, contrary to decades of Trumpian propaganda, are attempting to help, and therein lies the irony. The MAGA loyalty test, once a near-religious exercise in obedience, is now undermining itself. By failing to deliver meaningful solutions, Trump's chaos is producing exactly what his critics predicted. The base begins to question whether loyalty to the leader is worth the personal cost. Even Trump's most loyal shock troops, carefully recruited for maximum devotion, are not immune. Greene's voice is loudest, but it's unlikely to be the last. The longer the shutdown drags on, the more other lawmakers and voters will confront the tension between ideology and self-interest. The result is a political mirror cracking under the weight of its own reflection. MAGA loyalty, once absolute, is now tested by reality. And as cracks widen, Trump's supposedly untouchable image begins to show faint, yet unmistakable signs of vulnerability. For a decade, Donald Trump has cultivated an image of invincibility. He has been a showman, a disruptor, a kingmaker in his own story, convincing both supporters and skeptics that his power is absolute, his dominance inevitable. MAGA rallies, social media tirades, and relentless attacks on Democrats look carefully choreographed to project strength. But the recent government shutdown has done something remarkable. It has pulled back the curtain, revealing what many Americans may have already suspected, that the tiger is made of paper. The shutdown is not just a policy disagreement. It's a stress test for Trump's authority, and the results are unflattering. Democrats have held firm on a single popular demand, protecting opera subsidies and preventing skyrocketing premiums. That clarity, that discipline has allowed them to turn Trump's chaos against him. Instead of appearing unstoppable, he appears reactive, unprepared, and crucially vulnerable. Marjorie Taylor Greene's unexpected alignment with Democratic priorities serves as the clearest signal. One of Trump's most loyal allies publicly criticized Republican leadership for failing to address premiums. If someone who once championed conspiracies about Jewish space layers is echoing Democratic demands, the message is unmistakable. The political base is feeling the consequences of inaction, and Trump's narrative of inevitability is cracking. Trump has relied on spectacle to dominate the political conversation, to control the story. But Democrats, by holding a clear popular position and refusing to cave, have flipped the script. Now the story is no longer about Trump's dominance. It's about his failure to deliver tangible results while ordinary Americans bear the cost. Perhaps most striking is how the shutdown has illuminated ambivalent Republican voters. Republican vote Trump counts on for loyalty are now directly affected by policy inaction. Rising premiums are not abstract, they are personal. The disconnect between MAGA rhetoric and lived experience is becoming harder to ignore. And as cracks appear in loyalty, Trump's image as a political juggernaut begins to fray. This moment is both strategic and symbolic. Democrats are proving that resistance can work. Say no is not weakness, it's a demonstration of discipline and principle. And by extension, Trump's long-projected image of power, the paper tiger way, is being dismantled not by legislative fireworks or political scandal, but by the simple act of standing firm on a popular policy. The shutdown reveals something deeper about Trump's political machinery. It thrives on chaos, fear, and spectacle, but it struggles against disciplined opposition and transparent, relatable demands. For supporters who value loyalty over logic, the lesson may be jarring. Strength isn't determined by bombast or threats, but by results. In the end, what the shutdown exposes is not just the fragility of Trump's authority, but the enduring power of principle in American politics. A president who seemed unstoppable can be contained, not by dramatic events or scandal, but by clarity, discipline, and the courage to say no. The paper tiger, it turns out, was never as fierce as it seemed.